Hello, welcome back to the studio and to my sort of Vlogmas series. I left you last Friday promising you a video on Monday, and then, well, my chronic health issues caught up with me and I was unable to edit any video for the next few days. In today's video, I'm going to be swatching some new paints I got from a brand that I recently found out about called ENL. If you're new here, welcome! My name is Lee. I'm a botanical and natural science illustrator based in Kitchener-Waterloo, Canada. On this channel, I share watercolor techniques and tips and some insights into my daily life as an illustrator. If this is content that you're interested in, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. ENL is a Canadian label under the umbrella of what used to be called Roos Art and is now hosted at artmaterials.ca. This company started out as primarily an importer, importing art materials, paints, pigments, and brushes. About that. The paint packaging is simple but effective. Foil wrappers with a band over top of plain printed paper with the name of the paint, the pigment information, and all of the paint properties. Simple but effective. My order was also packaged in this nice cotton drawstring bag that's printed with the ENL label. My first impressions went from quite positive to really grossed out when I absentmindedly started opening the first paint in this set, Yellow Deep. This is the stickiest paint I have ever encountered. It is so goopy. It's all over the packaging. I would say over half of this pan was not in the pan itself, but rather stuck to the packaging. It got all over my hands. It's staining my fingers. I'm self-conscious about my nails. You're just gonna have to forgive them in this video. I am starting off with a genetic condition that makes them really weak and short and prone to getting stuff under them, and then on top of it, now they've got PY83 underneath them. So, sorry about that. After a little bit of cleanup, I moved on to unpackaging the rest of the paints, which went a lot better. As it turns out, the PY83 was the only paint with the really bad texture issues, although there was some serious variation between the paints and some cracking issues in the earth colors. Overall, the other paints opened up cleanly, so I think that's just a PY83 thing. I think I have used this pigment from other brands, and it is, in fact, just a very sticky pigment. Since I already have a very extensive, ridiculous collection of watercolors, I tried to focus on less common colors, seeing what this brand can offer that's different from others. So I chose Yellow Deep PY83, Flame Red made with P05, which I don't think I've ever seen before, Genuine Indigo, Sap Green made with PG8, Raw Sienna, which was interestingly made with PBR6, and Magnesium Ferrite made with PBR11. According to the website, ENL Watercolors, named after the company's founder, Elena Nahul Leroy, or Elena NL, are formulated with pigments, water, gum arabic, glycerin, honey, clove, and/or oregano oil. They do not have any strong scent of essential oils, so I presume they've been actually quite minimal with the amount of clove or oregano oil that they're using as preservatives. While I don't mind the smell of clove oil or paints that seem to be quite high in it, I know that this is something that bothers some people, so this is nice to know. My impression of the Yellow Deep vastly increased once I'd successfully gotten it into a palette and was able to swatch it. This is a beautiful, beautiful, deep, golden yellow. It's a very nice bright marigold color. It paints out nicely, nice and cleanly. There's no milkiness and no brown undertones. It really does come off as this really nice, bright, sunny marigold yellow. I'm realizing only as I edit this that I didn't prepare my swatch sheets with any black lines for transparency, so I'm going to have to do that separately. But it did appear to be quite transparent, at least from where it spills over the edges of my stamp area. The yellow deep spread nice and cleanly with no discernible texture. Next, I swatched Flame Red, P05. This is the first time that I've ever seen this pigment, I think. Haven't used it at all before. It's a nice middle red, a little bit muted and slightly on the coral side. Although it is not described as granulating, it does show some very visible sort of flocculation texture, I would say. Like the yellow deep before it, Flame Red is marked as light fastness 2 of a possible 3 on ENL's light fastness marking system. While these are not considered fugitive pigments, they are less light fast than some of the most popular pigments that you might see from other brands. But again, as long as they are straightforward and upfront about this, I'm pretty okay with having some brands offer some less light fast pigments in nice formulations without any fillers or anything. It's really nice to be able to use these different pigment properties, and you don't always need something that will last 100 years. The important thing to me is that companies are very upfront about letting us know everything that they know about what's in the paint. My next swatch is Indigo, made with genuine indigo. Indigo, which has pigment code NB1, so it's the first natural blue, is marked as light fastness 1 on the 3-point marking scale that ENL uses, which again is pretty accurate. It's quite a fugitive paint color, but it's a beautiful deep blue. I will say that this version of Indigo is neither the most saturated nor the brightest version that I've seen, and also as it dried, it has a sort of dusty texture to it that comes off when rubbed off. This is the only one of these 6 paints that did that. I blindly swatched Indigo on my sap green card, so then I had to quickly change the information on my cards, so you'll see me scramble to do that. And then I swatched sap green, made with PG8. This pigment is often called hooker's green. It was the original hooker's green, which is now often made with a mix of different pigments by many brands. PG8 is available from a few brands, although most professional brands have now replaced PG8 with mixes of different pigments to emulate the tone, because PG8 is, depending on its formulation, often not the most light fast. Here it's marked as light fastness 2, so that's the same as the yellow deep and the flame red. It is more permanent than the indigo, but not as permanent as, say, the earth colors, which is, again, accurate. Like the flame red and the indigo, the sap green here has this interesting texture to it, which I'm really quite enjoying. It's not something that I would want in all of my paints, but I think I'll really have fun doing a special piece with just these paints in my next video. Next, I've got raw sienna. And this may not seem like a particularly interesting choice when I said that I was choosing some interesting pigments, but the neat thing about this raw sienna is that it's made with PBR6. Usually raw sienna is made with PBR7, so PBR6 is a surprising choice for raw sienna, so I wanted to try it out. To be honest, this is not my favorite version of raw sienna. If you want my favorite version of raw sienna, I really like the raw sienna from Kama Pigments, also in Canada, you can just get the pigment and make your own paint, or most of the other Canadian brands of watercolor use that type of raw sienna, and I really like that. This is kind of weak and sickly by comparison, so not my favorite raw sienna, but it might add some interesting granulation patterns when mixed with other paints. I'll definitely still be using it in a painting, trying out these paints. Finally, magnesium ferrite. I don't know why I had in my head that this was going to be a much darker tone, because I've tried this pigment before, but whatever, I was still surprised to see this really light, heavily granulating mid-brown. It's really nice. I really like the texture of it, and it paints out really nicely. It is marked as semi-opaque, and I would call this a very opaque paint, so that's an interesting choice. Again, granulating, and this is the highest light fastness. It's made with PBR 11. So in tomorrow's video, I'll be sharing a painting created with these 6 paints. I'm curious to know what you would paint with these colors. I think I've already decided what I'm going to do, but let me know down in the comments below what you would create with these paints and whether you'd like to try some ENL paints. Also, before you go, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you'll be notified when my next video comes out. Tomorrow, ideally, assuming health issues don't come up. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.